And welcome inside the Pitt Studios here at the Peterson Event Center. Jeff Hathorn with Panthers head coach Jeff Capel. Congratulations
Thank you.
on the third straight win. And, there's been one constant with this other than you scoring more points than your opponent. It's you've held your opponents under 70 points. How much has defense keyed what we've seen the last
Well, it's
trio?
been huge. I think it's the reason why we've won. One of the things we talked to our guys about, and we showed them some stats of the percentages our team shoot and the amount of points they score and wins versus losses. And it was very significant. The percentages are down. So in these last three games that we've won, I think teams are shooting about 37% from the floor. And like you said, their scoring is under 70. And so that's who we are. That's who we have to be in order to give ourselves the best chance to win.
What has been the buy-in, and how long did it take for them to really understand that?
Well, we've done it in spurts. It's just trying to be consistent with it. And that's where I think we've gotten better over these three games. We've been a little bit more consistent in understanding that. Certainly it helps when you can score, when you're able to make shots. And having Ithiel back certainly helps with that. It spreads the floor out a little bit more. It opens things up. Mo has been shooting the basketball well. The last two teams we played had not doubled John. And so that certainly makes things a little bit different and easier for us from that standpoint. But the thing I was most proud of against North Carolina is just I thought we played really, really hard, and we did all the dirty work stuff. We took 4 charges. We were the first, for the most part, all game on the floor for loose basketballs. We got the 50-50 balls. We did a really good job with physical blockouts. Obviously, everyone knows one of the strengths of North Carolina's team traditionally is offensive rebounding, and they're an outstanding offensive rebounding team again. Armando Bacot himself averages over 4 offensive rebounds, and they did not get an offensive rebound in the second half until the last minute and a half. They got 2 in the last minute and a half, so it shows the attention to detail about physical blockouts, hitting first and going to pursue the basketball.
Is it too simplistic to say those things you're describing are effort plays?
They are effort plays, but it's also, along with effort, it's being alert. It's having your head on a swivel. It's pursuing the basketball. It's seeing where the blockout is. It's being connected. We had several plays we showed them today where we're in a ball screen and John leaves to go contest a shot. He's in the ball screen. He hedges or he drops. The guy pulls up. He contests a shot. In the past, John's man that's rolling just had a clear path. In this game, every time that happened, we had someone coming over to block him out. And so being connected like that, understanding that, like when you're connected and you're constantly trying to figure out, how can I help someone? How can I help my teammate be better? And last night's game certainly was probably the best effort we've had at that all year.
Why has your team been good at taking charges, and is it something you can teach? Is it something you go over and practice, how the proper ways and things like that?
It is something we teach. It's something we show opportunities when we do scouting. We'll look at tape and we'll say, this guy's, we have opportunities to take charges on this particular guy, on this particular team. They like to drive. This guy leaves his feet, when he goes. And so, he's a guy that's a big-time candidate, to take charges against. And then we work on it in practice. I mean, we do work on it. We work on the rotations and being there. I thought, JB took 3 of them last night. I thought one of the biggest plays of the game was in the second half was Noah Collier. Yep. And I thought he was terrific. I mean, he played with such energy and force. But it's a play all year where somebody drove, and all year long he would come over and really help up and jump. And in this time, he just helped up, got there, and he took a big-time charge on Caleb Love, which is a huge play.
Yeah, it's easy to say take the charge, but when someone's 230 with determined to get to the basket and you're the only person between him and that basket, it's not as easy to do.
I think sometimes, especially with guys that aren't used to taking charges, and most aren't in high school, like it's just not something that really happens, is to understand that it doesn't hurt. That's the biggest thing. Like it really, if you know how to do it and you get used to doing them, it doesn't hurt. You just have to take the lick. You fall, you get your position, and then you get right up. But it's a huge play, and it's what we like to call, like, those are winning plays.
Is that a play too, like a block shot, where it brings momentum, and it also, because a defender might be getting beaten in order to allow that guy, and then someone's got your back.
Yeah, I think plays like that are plays that unite and inspire your team. Charges, loose balls, help side block shot, a really physical block out, going to pursue the basketball on a rebound, those types of diving for a loose ball, because you're giving in those plays. You're giving yourself up. And I think plays like that, and we had a lot of them last night against North Carolina, I think those are plays that unite and inspire your team.
There were also some good things that happened on the offensive end.
Yep.
We're going to discuss that as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. The 4-point play. It's funny, Wes Durham is going to join us later in the show, said, I don't know, maybe his arm getting hit helped him direct that ball off the back. And you know what he did that your team did so well? He made the free throw, 12 for 12 down the stretch. I think that only gets talked about when you're missing them, but you guys were on it last night.
Yeah, it's the second game in a row where we really did a good job down the stretch of making free throws. We did it against NC State. And in this game, we did it. The other thing is that the last 4 minutes and 7 seconds of the game, we played without a timeout. And they were pressing, and during that time, we had one turnover. And that was when we tried to make a long pass, 69-63. We didn't make the right read. But to play that last segment like that without a timeout was huge in the way our guys were able to execute.
Yeah, it's still a relatively young team, or at least inexperienced together for some of the older guys. What do you tell them? You don't have any timeouts left, because it's that. I don't want to know if crutch is the right word, but you're kind of used to having one.
No question. And so what we talked about, we kept imploring to them and we have no timeouts. We have make sure. But the other thing was that at that moment, we had the arrow. So if there's any situation where there's a jump ball, don't try to throw the basketball away or try to do something in that situation. We have the arrow. We'll get a new 10 seconds if it's in the backcourt, or, the clock, if it's low, it'll go up to 20 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever it goes to. But again, we talked about meeting the pass. We talked about being poised. We knew they were going to trap. We knew at that moment they were picking us up full court. In the half court, they went to some of their run and jump stuff. We did a very good job of having spacing, meeting passes, and then executing down the stretch.
Defensively, what did you guys do to force those turnovers, and how important is it when you got them that you capitalized, I think, on all of them?
Yeah, it was we were just really active. We wanted to play off of Leaky Black. I think he's an outstanding player, but just in looking at the stats, he was only attempting 3 field goals a game. And he was shooting a great percentage, but that's not what he does. He's the ultimate glue guy and kind of plugs everything for their team. And so we really had the guy that was guarding him. It was Femi, but as we got into switching, it could be different guys. That guy kind of roamed, and he kind of plugged up gaps, helped out everywhere, and things like that. And so we played the percentages, and we were fortunate enough to win that.
Jeff, can you quantify what Ithiel means to you guys offensively?
Well, he's huge for us, and we knew that it was going to take him a while to get back in rhythm, to get his wind back, to get his legs back, and get into the rhythm of competition. We also had to get used to him. It's a two-way street. How he's played the last 3 games is what we saw up until his suspension in practice. He plays at such obviously he shoots the basketball at a high level. He's been able, he's worked on his game where he can get to that mid-range. He can drive it. Obviously he's an outstanding free throw shooter, but the last 3 games is kind of how we thought our team could be, how we could become at the beginning with the way we were in practice, how well we were playing, how well we played in the exhibition. It's kind of how we thought we'd be. And so he stretches the floor out for us. And so he gives us a guy that can shoot the basketball. He's another guy that can handle. He has a burst to him. He's strong. I've been impressed. I think he's really tried and made an effort and done a good job defensively. That's an area where he's really tried to work on. But what he does is that he stretches it out for us. It opens up some driving opportunities for Femi, for JB. It gives another guy where you opens up some space for John down low. And so it helps us in so many different ways.
All right, coming up, we want to get the perspective of one of your old teammates. We'll talk to him as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. They played together for 3 years at Duke, and from what I'm told, the only reason his assist and perhaps rebounding numbers went down his senior year is because Jeff Capel wasn't there anymore. Steve Wojciechowski joins us. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
What's up, man?
I tell you what, the guest list, you guys are pretty far down the guest list to have me on.
Whatever, man.
Steve,
it must be late in the season. But always good to be able to spend time with Jeff, even if it's only over the phone.
Steve, he was one of the original stat fillers. When you look at his career, it's 200 of everything: steals, assists, rebounds, fouls, points, like everything. Steve, how would you describe how you approach the game as a player?
You know what? I love the game of basketball. To me, it's the best sport, and I loved playing it, and I loved playing it with people I cared about. You know, my whole thing when I was playing, I tried to the best of my ability to be as good a competitor as anyone that I would go up against. I knew that there were some things in comparison to the guys that I was playing against, especially at the highest level, that if it was a matter of athleticism versus athleticism, in many cases, I was going to come up on the wrong end of that. So I tried to be a great teammate. I tried to compete my heart out, and I tried to do what the coach asked me to do.
Steve, where did you get your competitive spirit from? I mean, in playing with you for 3 years and knowing you since then, like I know, I think I know the answer, but just for the listeners and people, like where did that come from?
I think it came from my upbringing. I was the youngest of 3 kids, older brother and sister. Both my older brother and sister were really good athletes. They both were significantly older than me. So trying to keep up with them and trying to, prove myself in my own right, I was always competing against a really high bar. To be honest with you, I think there was nothing intentional. I just always got like, he's pretty intense or he's competitive. and it wasn't like I woke up in the morning and my daily affirmations, looked in the mirror and was like, I'm going to be competitive today. Gosh darn it. It just kind of happened for me. And I love sport. I love basketball. Obviously, that's the one that really sparked my fire. But anything that I could compete in from a sporting sense, I found myself drawn to, and it served me well in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases.
Could think of a Kentucky player that may not have thought the same way. Hey, Steve, I've got to ask you, because when I think of your game and watching you play, I've got to do it. I just slapped the table because you're slapping the floor, and I know it's not something. And Jeff, feel free to chime in. That started with you, but why was that such a big deal? And what did that do for you when you slapped that floor? What mindset did that put you in?
You know what? It was kind of a call to action in the Duke program. And like you said, I didn't start it, but I probably utilized it as much as anyone, potentially because I'm so low to the ground to begin with. But it was a call to action, and when Jeff and I were playing, it meant it raised everybody's awareness to the importance of getting a stop defensively. And, I loved it because to me, it was symbolic to the people watching, whether, and you can fall on one side of the fence of it. Some people love it. Some people hate it. But for our group, I think it was a connector. And I loved having the role of trying to connect people within the game of basketball. And so for me, it was more than just symbolism, although there was some of that. It was like, hey, these guys that I'm on the floor with and that I'm so close to, both on and off the floor, it's time for us to really link arms and make a stand.
Well, I can tell you, Jeff, that when he did it, it was inspiring. I mean, every time. And even hearing him talk about it when you did it, I actually got goosebumps just thinking back to those times and those moments. And, when he did it, when we did it, it was in moments. Like you said, it was a call to action. It was in a moment where we were, connected to each other that we're going to get this stop. Now is the time. And he was the leader of our group, especially as I got older in the program as a senior and he was a junior. And every time he did it, it was something that really, really inspired us.
We're joined by Steve Wojciechowski. Steve, we're going to take a time out. I want you to think of a really good Jeff Capel story while Jeff squirms for a couple of minutes. I also want to ask you this. You guys both –
that's radio appropriate?
That's radio appropriate. You guys also both kind of grew up through adversity. You dealt with adversity. I want to ask how you guys did that as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. We're joined by Steve Wojciechowski. And, Steve – let's just get right at it here. I mean, we want a story. There's got to be a story you can share that we can air.
One of the things I always remember with Jeff is his senior year. And, players go through different moments where, they're at their best and everything seems to be clicking for them. And then they can go through moments where they lose track maybe of who they are, or they lose confidence, and more than one story. Jeff in his own personal journey in his senior year, like early in his senior year, he struggled for who he was as a player, which was a great player, and he fought through it. And to be there as a friend and to see that. Because when you care about somebody, when things are tough, that hurts you, like it's happening to you. But then to see them grow through that and push through that and become the player that and they know they could be was incredible. It's fun because, like, you think back on those times, whether it was my own personal journey or Jeff's personal journey or Trajan's personal journey or Chris Collins, like some of our closest friends, being there and being able to be a part of their journey as they grew and developed and became not only the players but the people that you love and respect, you wouldn't trade that. And we won a lot of games. We won ACC championships. We reestablished the Duke program. We did all those things on the basketball floor. But those moments behind the scenes, whether it was laughing like college kids laugh or, those moments where we're struggling, like we're looking at each other like, what in the heck did we get ourselves into?
Yeah.
Those moments last forever.
Well, Steve, enjoy the time with your family. We can at least count on you as a situational Pitt fan here, I believe, right?
I am a huge, my kids would vouch for. I'm a huge Pitt fan. When I'm not coaching sixth grade basketball, I follow my friends religiously, and I'm a huge Pitt fan. I couldn't be more thrilled. I tell you, the team's getting better. You can see the growth individually. You can see the group growing. I forget who they played last, but I remember it was a big win. But I love Jeff like a brother. Jake Prizzuti worked for me for years at the Marquette staff, and he's as good a people as you're going to find. And Matt Plizga, who's on the staff behind the scenes. We had many a noon ball pickup games. Surprised he still talks to me. So I have a lot of love for the Pitt Panthers, and no one's rooting harder for them.
Steve, thank you.
Appreciate it, Whoa.
All right, you guys. Be good. Take care. And continued good luck.
Appreciate it, man.
We're going to discuss Saturday night's matchup against Georgia Tech as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. We're just a couple of weeks away from the ACC tournament, the great specials that are starting to air on the ACC network. What was it like growing up with the ACC tournament?
It was incredible, especially being from North Carolina, growing up in that state. It was like religion. And so if you were fortunate enough, you were very hopeful in elementary school, middle school, that your teacher was one of the teachers that checked out a TV. They roll it in on the cards.
That's awesome.
Because they'd watch it, you'd watch it, and if you didn't have that, then most of the time they played it over the intercom, the radio version of it. I mean,
during school.
So you knew during that time, like in school, it wasn't going to be much work going on those days in the ACC on those like Thursday and Friday.
And the kids would wear their individual
kids would wear that. Most of it was all Carolina. Growing up in the state, especially back then in the 80s. That was after Jordan and all of those great Carolina teams. It was mainly that, but you had your NC State people, your Wake Forest people, your Duke people. So it was definitely that.
When you finally got a chance to play in it, was it what you thought it would be?
It was everything I thought it would be. The one regret that I have, besides not winning the national championship as a player, we never won the ACC tournament. We got to the semifinals my freshman year, and that's as far as I ever got. I was fortunate to win one as an assistant coach at Duke, but that's something I really wish I would have experienced as a player.
He is a voice of ACC. When you hear this man's voice, you think ACC. Wes Durham is going to join us from the ACC Network as we continue on the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. Jeff, to turn on TV, and whether it's your games, whether it's the Packer and Durham show, Wes Durham is a part of it. Wes is joining us now because this is the one thing that he wasn't on today. Wes, hey, how are you? We were discussing right before you came on, before I asked you about Pitt, about the tournament, what you guys are running on ACC Network, and how much have you seen, and what kind of memories flood back when you see some of those highlights?
Oh, gosh. Well, I've seen I guess one of the benefits of kind of being a part of the network is I got to see the first 6 episodes before the first episode aired. And, in fact, I just watched the 7th one this afternoon, and it keeps getting better. And, the thing I told people on the air, and I actually said it to some people last night in Chapel Hill, is I think no matter your age, if you're an ACC basketball fan in one form or another, whether it's, 8 or 10 years with Pittsburgh and those schools, or if it's, maybe 05 when Virginia Tech and BC and Miami came around, or if it's back in the 90s when Florida State came in, you connect with ACC at a certain timeline. So you're going to be interested in the origination of the league. And if you're a longtime fan from ground zero, if you will, you're going to be flooded back with all these unbelievable memories that maybe you've forgotten, or stories maybe you didn't know. And that's the unique thing that John Dahl and John Hawk and this great crew that put all this doc together have really tried to capture, and I think they've done a beautiful job so far for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's important to mention. Pitt fans may not be as familiar with what happened because it was Big East. It was a different time. But you can jump into these and watch it, and you're not going to be lost or get caught in something because it's the way it's presented.
Yeah, I mean, there's one coming that chronicles like Monday night is 1975, and then by the time those 2 episodes there Monday night, and Coach Capel will like this, it's 1975 when Phil Ford won the MVP of the tournament as a freshman, to 1983 by the end of the night. Well, that includes, Phil Ford. It includes the Ralph Sampson era. It includes Carolina winning the title in 82 and NC State's miracle run in 83. I mean, that's 2 pretty good hours of what the ACC was going from 70s to 80s. And we still haven't even gotten to the magical part then of the mid-'80s when the Duke-Carolina thing with Coach K and Dean Smith really got rolling, into the 90s with Lethal Weapon 3, the back-to-back runs by Duke. I mean, and see, that's what I'm saying. It just kind of keeps building on top of itself. I think that'll be entertaining for all ACC fans.
Wes, you've been a part of the broadcast for the last couple of Panther games. What stood out to you about what you've seen from Pitt recently?
Well, that Capel's going to let me do more Pitt games is the number one thing.
You and Bonner, I need you guys.
Well, I mean, because last Saturday, I got to be honest with you, I was a little concerned about our status in the program a little bit last Saturday before the NC State game, but things have gotten better. To me, and look, I mean, these guys are friends, Jeff and Jason both, and we have a lot of our lives intertwined with one another through our dads and everything else. But to me, I think that, Pitt fans are finally getting to see what this basketball team as a whole could be, and it's still without Nike Sabandy. I mean, the edge and the way they played last night, the mentality they started the ball game last night was really impressive. I mean, Brady Manick hits a three to open the game, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, well, Carolina's not going to let up from where they were Saturday. And the Panthers kind of imposed their will in the first 20 minutes. I thought their ability to force turnovers and convert those turnovers into points. And then, to be honest with you, in the second half, you knew the Carolina thing was going to have a run. And that's why I thought it was funny you said, Coach, after the game that you was talking to your dad and he said, call a timeout. I mean, that's exactly – you've been in that place. You know what it's like when 2 or 3 threes go down, and the next thing you know, you guys – and your kids played with a lot of poise and toughness. And they played with toughness for 40 minutes, and they played with a lot of poise in the second half when that building was trying to, capture another one in the comeback.
Yeah.
Wes, we were discussing history, and when I hear history, I think of John Hughley, and he's a guy that could play in any era. When you watch him play, what kind of rolls through your mind?
Well, last night it was his footwork, because I've been impressed the game that I did when they beat Louisville, and I did that game remotely, which is unfair to everybody. But last night, I thought his footwork was a key in his ability to be effective against Baycott. In fact, I thought his opening basket, where he kind of repivoted twice and was able to score against Baycott by leveraging his body against Baycott, was really impressive. And I think it's an undervalued piece of his game, to be honest with you, where he is right now as a player, certainly as a sophomore.
Wes, I haven't seen the lineup. I don't know if you're calling the game on Saturday against Georgia Tech, but if you're not, we need video of you at your house calling the Pitt game just for good mojo.
No question.
Hey, wait a second, Capel. You're not getting 3 in a row now.
I mean, you got 3 in a row.
Okay? I've got to go to Blacksburg and see if I can.
2 minutes.
Corey Alexander and I can withstand the Castle Guard on Saturday afternoon. You think those folks will be waiting on those boys in baby blue to show up there?
No question. Huh? I know they will.
Hey, Wes, we appreciate your time. You can check them out, ACC Network, Packer and Durham. It's a great laid-back,
awesome.
Not a hot take show. It just you can learn a lot about the ACC and a lot of different sports, which I admire you for too, because it's not just basketball and football. There's a lot of different athletes that pour their heart and soul into their careers. So well done on the show.
Appreciate you, Wes.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, man.
No, thank you for having me. And at the end of the day, Packer and Durham's still a show in a man's basement with dogs, guys.
That's awesome. It's great.
Take care.
All right, Wes Durham. And it is a cool show.
It's a great show.
And the premise, it is. It's guys in their basement.
2 guys just talking.
And they're not yelling at you.
Yep.
They're not trying to hot take one another. It's just conversation.
It's awesome.
Which is great.
Yep.
Last thought, the fans here have been awesome.
Yes.
And I know you're excited about Saturday because they've come out and support you even before this winning streak.
No, it is. And our students have been amazing. The fans that have been there have been amazing. The energy, and we're grateful for it. Obviously, we know it hasn't gone exactly like anyone has wanted it. No one feels that more than us, the players, the coaches, me as the head coach. But we've continued to show up every day, and they've continued to show up, so we're grateful for that.
All right, thanks to Steve Wojciechowski, and it's cool the emotion that comes up. I can see it in your eyes. Wes Durham, to Matt Plizga for every week putting this show together for us, to Amanda King and to Cale Berger. A reminder, it's a 7 o'clock tip-off against Georgia Tech. Pregame starts at 6:30. Bill Hillgrove, Cale Berger, and Curtis Aiken right here on the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network.